Hello and welcome back to video classes by Konnur English Medium School. Today we are going to visit the non-detailed part of your textbook, and for the first semester we have basically 3 units there, and the first one, King Sindbad and his falcon, has been dropped because of the lockdown and the syllabus not being covered. The government has decided to drop that unit, and a few others have also been dropped. We'll talk about that later. So today we are visiting the non-detailed part of your English curriculum, and we are discussing The Broken Gate, which is a story by Enid Blyton. So in this story we see one boy among his friends shows such courage and honesty that he receives rewards for that. So that is the theme of the story. Let's read the story, and then as usual I will be pausing in between to explain a few things here and there, give you meanings of some words here and there, and I want you to make notes of all of that, and also please follow me line by line as we continue through the story. Right. Old Man Twinkle wanted a boy to help him in his shop. He needed a boy who could drive Jenny the pony, for all Twinkle's goods were taken round in the cart. So the old man Twinkle put a notice in his window, wanted a boy to help after school hours. So there is an old man, and his name is Twinkle. And Twinkle has a shop. He has things that he sells to customers in the locality. And because Twinkle is an old man, he feels that he needs an assistant, because he cannot alone manage all the things anymore. So he wanted somebody to assist him with his everyday business. And he had a cart which was driven by a pony, and the pony's name was Jenny. A pony is a small horse, right? It's a kind of small horse. It's not the average sized horse. Horses are tall. Taller than average human beings, but pony is shorter than an average human being, shorter than us people. So that's a kind of short horse, you can say. So he had a pony, a short small horse, and he had named it, and he called it Jenny. So this pony named Jenny, it helped him drive the cart, and in that cart he used to supply the groceries and other things that customers wanted. So maybe it was like this: the customers would give him a list of things that they wanted, and then Twinkle had to load them up on the cart, which was driven of course by Jenny the pony, and take those goods to the doorstep of the customers. So this was obviously a lot of work for old man Twinkle. Although Jenny was there to help him with the cart thing, loading up things and then delivering personally was getting a little tiring for him. So he decided he would appoint somebody to assist him with the business, everyday business. So he decided to put up a notice outside his shop, yes, and the notice said this: wanted boy to help. So I'm looking for somebody to help me, a boy to help me. See, he is very particular about that. He wants a boy. And into the brackets you see there are 3 more words, and those words read after school hours. So Twinkle doesn't want any boy to bunk school or drop out of school to just get this job from Twinkle. So he says, I want a boy to help me, but after school hours. So that notice was put up outside his shop. Of course, the shop and house were in the same building. All the boys saw the notice, and many of them thought they would try for the job. These school-going boys who passed in front of his house every day, they saw this notice, and they thought maybe we could try for this job. Job means money. They would have their own income. They would have their own earning. So they were kind of interested in that notice. They could do it after school and on Saturdays, and it would be a good job. For old man Twinkle was generous and kind, and Twinkle was known in the locality. Everybody knew him. and he had been recognized as a gentleman and a generous person. So these boys thought, anyway, this is a good man, right? And he's going to pay us well if we work for him. And we don't have to bunk school, we don't have to drop out of school. All we have to do is work for him after school hours and on weekends like Saturdays. So no harm in trying for this job, thought many of the boys in that area, in that locality. Then that evening, all the boys, George, Henry, Peter and Harry, went to see Old Man Twinkle. Jack, who was called the smallest by his friends, who hesitated to try for the job because of his ragged clothes, also went to see who would get the job. Old Man Twinkle wasn't ready to see anyone for the moment, so he told the boys to play in the yard till he called them. So then that evening, the same evening when this notice was put up in front of Twinkle's house, some boys decided to go and meet Twinkle and ask him if he would hire any of them for the job. Yes, I'm using the word hire, which is H-I-R-E. Okay, so remember that. H-I-R-E, hire means to appoint somebody, pay them salary or wages or some sort of compensation, and they will do the job you want them to do. So that is called hiring. So he wanted to hire a boy. So some boys went to meet him and to ask him if any of them would be, he would like to hire any of them. So who were these boys that went to him? These are their names: George, Henry, Peter and Harry. So George, Henry, Peter and Harry, the four boys, they thought they are eligible for this job. They went to meet Old Man Twinkle. But with them there was another one called a Jack. Jack was the smallest of all of them. They called him the smallest, and he didn't think he was eligible for any sort of job. He just went to see who would get the job. He went with these boys, George, Henry, Peter and Harry, just to see who will get the job among them. But Twinkle was busy at that moment when all these five boys went to meet him. He was a little busy, so he said, "You know what, boys, you play outside in the yard and I will call you when I am available, when I am done with the work." So he asked them to play in the yard. Yard is an open area of the, in front of the house. Seeing an enormous yard gate swinging to and fro in the wind, all five boys climbed up on the gate. So these were all little kids, right? And they were very playful and they loved playing. And they saw that in the yard there was a big gate, and that gate was swinging in the wind like this. It was moving to and fro. It would go a little further and it would come back. Nobody was pushing it. It was the wind that was causing the gate to move slightly. So when these boys saw it, that playfulness in them, it awoke, and then they wanted to, climb the gate and play on the gate. So they all climbed up on the gate. Now, notice that this gate is a big one, enormous. Enormous means huge. It was very, very big. So then Jack, who was called, they shouted and pretended to whip the gate to make it gallop. They climbed up on the gate and they sat on it with their legs on either side of the gate, and then they pretended as if they were riding a horse. It was like horse riding, although they were sitting on the gate. They shouted and pretended to whip the gate to make it gallop, and they would try as if they were whipping the gate, like you whip a horse, which is attached to a carriage or a cart, and they just pretended that they were riding a horse. So they shouted and pretended like that. It swung to and fro, and the boys shouted with delight. And with their weight on it and the wind already blowing, the gate moved even, to an even greater degree. And then it gave them a lot of fun. They felt thrilled by the movement of the gate. It was like they were really riding a horse. And then suddenly something happened. What happened suddenly was the gate was old and was not meant to carry 5 heavy boys. Even though the gate was a big one, an enormous one, but it wasn't a strong one anymore because it was an old gate. And 5 of the boys are sitting on it, and it could not bear their weight. So what did the gate do? It broke away at the hinges, and the boys found themselves sliding off. So one of its hinges broke off. What is a hinge? Hinge is that part of the gate that connects it to the frame in the wall or in the compound. So that hinge, it broke apart, and that means the gate collapsed. When the gate collapsed, it slided the boys off it. They all slid off it, right? So the boys did not expect that. The boys did not expect that the gate would break like that. Then the gate gave a groan and hung all crooked, swinging in a very peculiar manner. So it made a groaning noise as if it was in great pain. It groaned, it made a groaning noise, sound, and then it collapsed. And it hung there in a very strange manner, and it still kept moving. So what just happened was, because of these boys climbing up on the gate and trying to pretend that they were riding a horse, and all that resulted in the gate breaking. Now you see, these boys have gone there to ask for a job. Now they are in trouble. Do you think they will still get the job? Well, if you were Twinkle, if you were Old Man Twinkle, and if you found out that these boys had broken your gate and they have come there seeking a job, would you still go ahead and give them a job? Well, perhaps not. But what does Twinkle do with these boys? That's an interesting part, and we will cover that in the next class.